You are listening to the February 2016 issue of the Agribusiness Dairyman magazine. Thanks for tuning in. Enjoy. About the cover. Robin Berg has been a familiar face to us at Agribusiness Dairyman magazine since we first met on the phone back in 2009. He is reluctantly called the founder of Dairy Pricing Association. We had been referred to him by other Wisconsin dairy producers who were familiar with his efforts to help dairy producers achieve and maintain profitability long before it was talked about in this magazine in 2008 and 2009. He came highly recommended to us because of his efforts to organize dairy producers. His goal is to help them implement a permanent solution to extreme price volatility heaped upon dairy producers by a market that was ruled largely by a continuous oversupply of milk against a demand for milk that is continually rising and falling for any number of reasons at any given time. After taking time to better understand the agenda and goals, he and other Wisconsin dairy producers had spent years researching and organizing, in conjunction with the provisions provided to dairy producers by the Capper-Volstead Act of 1922, we knew we needed to know more. The Capper-Volstead Act of 1922 allows agriculture producers to form associations that allow producers to compete together in the marketplace. The Act states that persons engaged in the production of agriculture products as farmer, planter, ranchman, dairyman, nut or fruit growers may act together in associations, corporate or otherwise, with or without capital stock, in collectively processing, preparing for market, handling, and marketing in interstate and foreign commerce such products of persons so engaged. Such associations may have marketing agencies in common, and such associations and their members may make the necessary contracts and agreements to effect such purposes. Provided, however, that such associations are operated for the mutual benefit of the members thereof, as such producers, and conform to one or both of the following requirements. First, that no member of the association is allowed more than one vote because of the amount of stock or membership capital he may own therein, or, second, that the association does not pay dividends on stock or membership capital in excess of 8% per annum, and in any case to the following. Third, that the association shall not deal in the products of non-members to an amount greater in value than such as are handled by it for members. Dairy Pricing's mission statement is as follows: to promote domestically produced dairy products and to establish the minimum price the dairy industry receives from its production while at the same time maintaining a level of milk production to meet the needs of the consumer. As the first goal written into the contract with producers, brought forward by the National Dairy Producers Organization to work with all like-minded organizations, it became immediately clear that the tools dairy pricing was offering dairy producers nationwide was exactly what should be included. It meshed perfectly with recommendations being offered to dairy producers nationwide as part of the contract with producers, later signed by the Board of Directors of the National Dairy Producers Organization in February 2011. Robin was subsequently asked to serve as a board member of the National Dairy Producers Organization, one of two dairy producers to serve on the board from the state of Wisconsin. He served for nearly 4 years until selling his dairy herd and concentrating full-time working his cow-calf beef operation on his farm in Wisconsin. During this entire time, he was also the president and chairman of the Board of Dairy Pricing Incorporated, a nonprofit organization he helped form to further the specific agenda of providing needed tools for dairy producers to help them take total responsibility for their milk production. Dairy pricing teaches dairy producers that they must be willing to take responsibility for the milk production on the farm relative to profitable demand in the markets, as well as being willing to stand at the back door of the processors and buy up excess inventories processed from their milk production because of oversupply, and donate those excess inventories to food banks, churches, and other agencies serving the hungry in America. This part of the dairy pricing agenda is affectionately known as the cleaner, used only when those inventories rise to levels that negatively impact the profitable price of milk paid to dairy producers. Our cover photo was taken this past summer as Robin toured through Pennsylvania and Virginia speaking to dairy producers, both members and non-members of dairy pricing. A video of one of his many presentations has been placed on YouTube so that producers all over the country can view and hear it directly from the dairy producer who started this important effort. We encourage every dairy producer to visit www.dairypricing.org to learn more about Robin Berg, dairy pricing, and this exciting plan to help dairy producers achieve and maintain profitability. We also encourage every producer to better understand why we recommend the expansion and full funding of this plan in the Agribusiness Dairyman 2020 agenda. A copy of our 2020 agenda can be found on our website at www.my-dairyman.com. We commend Robin and the board members of Dairy Pricing for his and their steadfast commitment to the industry, their excellent example of producer leadership, and for having the courage to push this important effort forward in spite of those very loud voices who would rather stay with or keep the status quo. We strongly recommend every dairy producer in the country to get to know Robin Berg and the Dairy Pricing agenda. We call it the way forward. We have even set a goal that could be the outcome of fully implementing this exciting plan. $22 for 36 months. Get on board.
This is the publisher's perspective from the February 2016 Agribusiness Dairyman publication. 1 year of below profitable prices heading full speed into year 2 is our title. Subtitled, Is there a single producer who is willing to wait 3, 4, or 5 years for market demand to return prices to profitability? In this very special issue of the Agribusiness Dairyman magazine, we wanted to share what we have come to know are the greatest concerns facing dairy producers and the problems that exist in the producer sector of the U.S. and even for producers worldwide. Problems and concerns that, if addressed as recommended by and supported by hundreds of dairy producers, involved individuals and businesses who have their finger on the pulse of things domestic and global, would surely prevent unparalleled devastation, losses, and true human heartache for the producers and their family members everywhere. So we shout again from the rooftops to every dairy producer in America, and will even share the recommendations with producers around the world, these thoughts, market analysis, and in turn, recommendations that we are confident will save and prosper every dairy producer in America and around the world. 1. Concern number 1. Concern number 1, everyone else in the dairy industry wants you to do what you, dairy producers, have always done. Even now, after a year where producers in America forfeited more than $14 billion in lost revenue, they, meaning everyone else in the dairy industry, wants you to produce more milk, and more milk, and do it for the lowest possible price, including below your actual cost of production. Concern number 2. You have yet to effectively respond to unprecedented evidence that less milk will yield more money and more profit. Getting paid losing prices on all of your milk, even the 4 to 8% too much milk, is not justifiable, much less sustainable. Concern number 3. The processors continue to gear up for greater and greater capacities, fully expecting that if there is an empty tank somewhere, dairy producers will fill it and do it at their own expense, even if that entails losing money in the process. Concern number 4. That mentality and resultant reality provides for them, the processors, the manufacturers, the wholesalers, and the retailers, the lowest price possible on all U.S. milk production. The low prices are not relegated just to Class 3 milk production and utilization, but 100% of all U.S. milk production, regardless of utilization. How would you like to have the benefit of the margins created for processors when overproduction reduces the price on all Class 1 and Class 2 milk utilization by $3 to $10 per hundredweight, knowing there has not been a single bit of demand loss for Class 1 and Class 2, especially here in the United States? Wouldn't you just love high demand combined with high prices for finished goods against the lowest price possible for your number one input commodity? In the producer's world, that would be the equivalent of buying your feed and cows at half price and selling to your processor for $24 per hundredweight. Number 5. Our next concern is focused on the current economic condition of dairy producers nationwide. After yet another year of break-even, or in most cases below cost of production prices, while the general economy of the country and the world are heading in a precarious direction at best. This is the time when we need to be very liquid, very flexible with our options, and very receptive to taking or making needed changes. Low prices below cost of production prices have dairy producers in the worst possible financial condition at the worst possible time. If we are to see and endure tough economic times ahead, and all the signs say we are facing tougher economic times, then our current economic condition is very critical to any hope of successfully navigating what is yet to come. You don't want to become engaged in the biggest battle of the war with no money, no financing, low prices, high production, low demand, falling beef prices, and walking pneumonia too. Under those conditions, you just might not make it to the other side. Our concern number 6. This is our biggest single concern. There is a very strong likelihood that prices paid to producers will not recover to a pay price over $15 or $16 through the rest of this decade. If we wait solely for demand to return to the markets, that being global demand. It can only be global demand that would come soon enough, fast enough, to save the majority of producers in this country and around the world. Nothing else could come faster, if it comes at all, than can global demand. Following the crash of 2009, it still took double-digit growth in global demand for U.S. milk and milk products for 4 full years in a row until the markets responded with and provided needed economic relief to dairy producers. The continuous push by producers to make more milk did not allow the market prices paid to producers for their milk during any of the first 3 years of that double-digit growth in global demand until producers stopped growing milk production. In 2013, milk production growth was below 2% nearly the entire year, which finally created a rise in market prices paid to producers through most of 2014. In fact, those were record prices when supply was slowed and demand was at its highest levels ever. Overall, 4 separate years, 2010, 2011, 2012, and 2013, dairy producers did not get price benefit from double-digit global demand increases because producers totally disregarded the need to reduce supply relative to profitable demand for their milk in order to achieve and maintain higher, or in those cases, profitable pricing. China will not come back into the market and pay twice the price. They don't need to. They can sit back, wait, buy a little more, all the while increasing and improving their own ability to make more milk. They are now the 3rd largest producer of milk in the world. We are fairly confident that they may well become the largest producer of milk in the world sometime late in the next decade. Sheer volume is what they need and what they do. Quality may well be an issue early on, but they will eventually improve in quality and milk production per cow. That is a long-term game changer. Concern number 7. Last but not least is the fact that American dairy producers are not only competing with some very formidable competition for milk production in other countries, but they are actually competing with the governments of those countries. Those governments have an insatiable need for more exports to generate more government revenues and balance each of respective trade imbalances. They are prepared to and are using tax dollars in a multitude of different ways to artificially prop up and even prosper a larger and larger milk production and processing industry in their respective countries. Pick the country: China, Australia, New Zealand, Vietnam, Venezuela, the European Union, with its 29 million cows and many, many more. Even India. India is and will be a volume of milk to be reckoned with over time. Today, India is the 4th largest producer of milk in the world. The U.S. dairy producer must come to realize that global is not your friend. Chasing global markets is not in the best interest of dairy producers long term. It is a financial boon to everyone else in the industry, but not dairy producers. You cannot compete with milk production that can be brought to the markets at lower overall costs, closer and even the closest to the hopeful markets, and then compete at a pay price below your own cost of production, which, if allowed, always destroys the price paid to producers for all the milk that is produced to satisfy the domestic demand for milk and milk products. It just doesn't pay to compete in that game. Producers have 2 choices. 1, become market responsive in your daily milk production, taking full responsibility for your overproduction, even if it requires you to use your money to buy your production out of the finished markets and donate it to Feeding America or other food to the needy distribution options. Promoting greater utilization of milk by fortifying all fluid milk nationwide to meet or exceed California standards, focusing on better taste and greater nutrition. Then producers must promote the consumption of milk and milk products as one of the most nutritious combinations of protein, fat, sugar, micronutrients available in the human diet today. It always has been and always will be, but we just get distracted with what we think matters most. The best possible product delivered fresh and cold to every consumer in America, even the 49 million citizens who today do not get a single serving of milk or milk products on a daily basis. That 49 million people represents 15.4% of a total U.S. market, a market that is totally underserved by the U.S. dairy industry. This is an unfortunate trend that has now gone on for more than 40 years, but a problem that can be solved to the betterment of everyone concerned. We should not have hungry people in this country. That needs to be stopped and can be stopped. Dairy producers can lead that important effort. The second option available to dairy producers will be to unhinge milk that is overproduced by producers from all other domestic production and clear it out of the markets by processing it into finished storable goods and only selling it to the global markets, returning to the producer who did overproduce the domestic profitable demand at a pay price set for dairy products by the global marketplace at that moment in time. Dairy producers cannot afford to let 2 to 8% overproduction reduce the price of the milk they produce for domestic consumption. Everyone else wants it to stay that way because they make billions of extra dollars on the backs of the dairy producer sector of the industry, regardless of the country of origin. That has to stop. We are sending producers to extinction, and if producers want that to stop, they will have to start responding to the economic realities of supply and demand. The game has changed, and producers need to change with it. There is no other way. We know there is a way forward, and it's time to get on with it. Dairy producers have and are coming together to implement ideas and processes that they have fostered and prospered. It is time for all dairy producers to unite, pushing this way forward toward long-term sustainability. Visit www.my-dairyman.com or www.dairypricing.org or www.nationaldairyproducers.org to learn exactly what you can do to fix these and many other problems. But prices paid to producers is our number one issue. We recommend that you become informed and involved in the solutions.
Editor's notes. Our magazine, website, and NewsHour magazine are designed to give you easier, faster access to what matters most. Welcome to this important edition of the Agribusiness Dairyman magazine. We feel it is important to draw your attention to the different structure of the magazine in an effort to help you better understand our purpose and direction. The magazine will be structured to coincide with the structure and function of our website, my-dairyman.com. It is done so as to provide for the readers of the magazine and visitors to the site greater familiarity and easier use and navigation. Our primary goal is to always provide dairy producers a far more advanced understanding of the dairy industry after the milk leaves the farm. It is very clear that dairy producers know exactly what to do to breed the best possible cows. Feed them the most balanced and productive feed rations possible, as well as provide the best possible care before, during, and after giving birth. We have chosen to focus the majority of our time and energy inside the magazine toward helping dairy producers create and maintain an environment of profitability and sustainability. Much needed collaboration between producers and producers and co-ops, as well as producers and manufacturers, producers and retailers, producers and consumers must be established and prospered if we are going to sustain a viable dairy producer sector in these many parts of the country. Profitability is our number one goal. We propose that could and may well entail producers embracing new and improving technology and efficiencies. So we will do our best to provide print and online access to the latest and greatest available now and in the future. But what matters most now and in the future is doing what it takes, in fact, everything it takes, to ensure that dairy producers are profitable in every region of the country, regardless of the size of their dairy or the class utilization a particular dairy produces for. Price will determine outcomes. Managed supply versus profitable demand determines price. Producers cannot easily nor consistently determine demand, but they can impact demand over time and need to be doing everything possible to ensure that demand is always at its highest possible levels. What producers can best influence, have needed impact, and dare we say most assuredly control, is the supply of milk and the levels of stored inventory. Both milk production and stored supplies, if not monitored and properly managed, will rob dairy producers of tens of billions of dollars in an amazingly short period of time. What cannot be tolerated any longer is the management practices that have put dairy producers on the losing end of failed beliefs, practices, and policies. The content of this magazine will focus on providing dairy producers with the best possible intel about the current and future markets and recommendations from multiple sources as to how to move forward. The daily news reports can themselves help dairy producers better navigate the production process relative to profitable demand. But market-responsive milk production on the farm must become the standard practice dairy producers implement and maintain in order to ensure a way forward. Profitability matters most, and right now it is all that matters. What we will bring to you are solutions that have been shown to us by other dairy producers. What we echo are the thoughts and ideas of other dairy producers who have given a great deal of thought, time, effort, and resources to test and retest their ideas and management tactics and tools. In our February issue of the Agribusiness Dairyman magazine, we have chosen to drive home the unbelievable number of articles that were written and published over the preceding 23 months that provide more than ample indication that the markets were changing. What is just as dramatic as the number of warnings provided to anyone who has eyes to see are the varied factors or influencers that have or are contributing to the dramatic price changes experienced by dairy producers as they relate to the price producers are paid for their milk. We have taken the time to identify in our February cover story what are really only a portion of the total media coverage given to the dairy markets from all over the globe. Articles written and published that gave strong and or sometimes subtle indications that demand was going to shift from record highs to more traditional numbers that have become part of the ebb and flow of submitting the U.S. total milk price to global demand cycles. Space in print would not allow us to reprint every single article that has been written from around the world about market conditions day in and day out over these past 23 months. So we have used what is now an old technology called QR codes to allow readers to immediately scan each QR code on each page of the cover story using a special app on their smartphones, which will immediately take the reader to the full text of the article. This is an amazing technology, and we are excited to be able to incorporate it into our printed version of the Agribusiness Dairyman magazine. We encourage all of our readers to embrace and master this piece of technology in order to expand our reach and understanding of the dairy industry. Things have changed, and we are doing the best job possible to answer the needs of a very diverse readership. In the dairy industry today, we have producers who range in age from their teens to producers who are well into their 80s. Not to mention every family member over the age of 5. We have not done the numbers, but there are likely producers still connected to the dairy operation into and beyond their 90th year. We will keep finding better and more efficient ways for you to take it all in and use it to the very best of your ability. Respond back to us with your comments and suggestions. You can reach me at www.editor@my-dairyman.com. Also, tune in to the Agribusiness Dairyman News Hour magazine, your 1-hour all-dairy connection, online or via our national free conference call by dialing 1-712-432-0900 and entering the code 6666632#. You can also listen to a recording of the call anytime by dialing 1-712-432-0990, then using your same code 6666632#. We'll see you on the call. This feature story, along with its extensive list of charts and graphs, can be found in the February issue of the Agribusiness Dairyman magazine. You will find the complete version of the feature story and the entire February magazine by visiting our website, www.my-dairyman.com. The price crash of 2015. What did we know? When did we know? What did we do? There are more than enough early and often signals, warnings, and even credible reports of what is happening to give dairy producers the opportunity to take meaningful action. We certainly live in an amazing time. Nearly every day of the week, now going on 6 years, we have been provided with a daily ration of news, information, and analysis of news. We are shown the markets, the reports, and the commentaries that are coming from all corners of the globe giving specific market details and what we like to call influencers affecting the U.S. dairy industry. This wide-open window allows anyone ample opportunity to pull from the news and headlines, the charts, graphs, and reports, specific information about everything that has happened, is happening, even what will happen in or to the dairy markets around the world. Not only can we instantly see and hear what is happening in the markets around the world, but the why it is happening is a very regular part of each report. The third component of this instant information age is the data typically will also provide specific details as to how this latest data is going to impact the entire industry, the market, and the producer's pay price in particular. While far too many in the producer sector of the U.S. dairy industry are unable to track each and every detail and nuances, it does not mean that changes are not happening or that what is happening on the other side of the globe is not or will not have near immediate impact on the pay price of milk paid to a dairy producer down the street or coast to coast. We have gone to great lengths in this issue and on our website, www.my-dairyman.com, to provide a rerun of the news, articles, charts, and graphs that were sent to many of us and available to everyone during the past 23 months. These daily clues and hints, shouts and all-out trumpeted fanfare, told us what was happening prior to and during the crash of 2015. We were kept well informed before it happened, while it was happening. These critical reports would most often predict with some very high accuracy what was coming next as a result of what was happening now. Included as a bonus was the where it was happening and why driven by what. The nonstop flow of details, facts, and commentary were unfortunately ignored by the very people based solely on their responses who ultimately were hurt the most, dairy producers. We have noticed that depending on who the many reports were from and for whom they were intended, the outlooks and prognostications tended to be overly optimistic as to how bad, for how long, and who would be affected next. The how low can we go scenario is not mentioned too often. Let's say that more accurately. It is never mentioned. But ample warnings are given if you are paying attention and understanding in the slightest way the historical background of the U.S. dairy industry and the past and current mentality, performance, and reaction to market conditions by U.S. dairy producers. This extensive collection of information and articles is solely intended to prove to dairy producers that they can see what is happening in real time. Because the information is so timely and so accurate, dairy producers or their appointed agents can very accurately predict the causes and effects of supply, demand, trends up and trends down, and then manage what they should do next based on the real numbers applied to historical trends and market reactions from each and every player in the game. No longer do dairy producers or farmers in general need to be the cause of their own demise. Knowledge is power, but applied knowledge is nuclear power. Nuclear is what producers need to generate and use to help themselves and every dairy producer achieve and maintain profitable pricing in the markets. The combination of instant access to facts about the markets, as well as the consistent use by dairy producers of specific tools made available to them by law, can provide dairy producers with this so-called nuclear power that will be needed to affect and continue to maintain every market and every class utilization at profitable levels, thereby providing long-term sustainability for dairy producers. We hope this will plant a seed with dairy producers as to what they can know, when they can know it, and thereby impacting what they can do and when they can do what to ensure a profitable outcome every day of the week. Not sometimes, but all the time. Not 25% of the time, but 100% of the time. $22 for 36 months straight is not only possible, but must become reality. Because you can have that needed impact. This is business, and it's all about survival. Custom protein blends, all wrapped in great-tasting molasses. Molasses-based liquid feeds provide an excellent source of sugar and dry matter, helping deliver increased microingredients into the TMR. One thing that has not changed on a dairy over these many years is how to best feed your cows. With changing commodities and costs, dairymen are constantly evaluating their feed programs to get the most out of the available feeds for the money. Dry matter, fibers, sugars, and proteins, just to name a few. The balancing act is how much of each commodity is needed to give the cow optimum levels for both milk and her maintenance. Protein is one of the critical aspects of the cow's diet to help maintain maximum milk production and proper nutrition. Urea is a major source of protein used in today's dairy diets. It can be fed dry, in the mineral pack, and added to the TMR so as the wagon is filled, it mixes well with the entire ration. Another way is for the urea to be added to the molasses-based liquid feed. Molasses is an excellent source of sugar and dry matter for the cow. It also makes the feed more palatable and helps reduce sorting. Molasses blends have also shown to be an excellent vehicle for delivering microingredients in the TMR. Once selected based on quality, the cane is transported via ship to the Penny Newman Port Facility located in Stockton, California, where it is offloaded into storage tanks. From the Port of Stockton, the molasses is transported to their Fresno facility, where the molasses is then used to make custom blends for dairies throughout the state. By working with nutritionists and dairymen, Penny Newman is able to formulate custom protein blends to fit a dairy's recommended diets based on the commodities that each individual dairyman is feeding at any given time. The protein levels can be adjusted along with dry matter according to the needs of each dairy at any point in time. One dairyman might need 25 protein, 60 dry matter, while another might require a much higher level, up to 50 to 55 protein with the dry matter to match. Some customers use the protein blends to stretch out a whole cottonseed contract while getting needed moisture and sugars from the molasses. Once the nutritionist provides their specifications for the blend required for the dairyman, a custom formulated mix to fit the producer's current situation is blended at the plant prior to delivery to the farm. Before starting the blending process, urea is melted into a liquid form, thus ensuring the urea can be mixed completely throughout the blend, which ensures better utilization of the urea. After melting, the amount of urea needed to meet the requirements provided by the nutritionist is added to the mixing tank along with the required amount of molasses. The plant can also add other microingredients to the blend upon request from the dairyman or nutritionist. Once the mixing is complete, the batch is loaded into a truck and transported to the dairy. At each dairy, storage tanks have been installed to receive these loads from the delivery truck. Each tank is connected to a pump and motor unit that is used to apply the molasses blend into the TMR by way of 2-inch pipelines and hoses that end in a spray bar suspended over the feed wagon. The feeder is then able to apply the required amount of protein molasses blend for each load while the feed is being mixed. This allows for the molasses protein blend to be spread evenly throughout the TMR. By feeding the protein in this fashion, dairymen are able to utilize the protein in a form that is far more attractive to the dairy cow and significantly more palatable when blended with molasses. The blended molasses also helps reduce sorting and gives the dairy cow clean, quick energy. Molasses blends have been labeled a fantastic tool by many dairymen. It is a tool that can be customized load by load as may be needed. A dairyman then has the flexibility to change the blend according to the ever-changing commodities he has in his barn. Liquid protein molasses blends are one of the few feeds with which this level of flexibility can be achieved right on the farm. By consulting with your nutritionist, you can find out how molasses simple blends and protein blends can be utilized in your feed program. Your nutritionist can explain the benefits to a feed program and how best to fit molasses and protein blends into a ration. Please give Penny Newman a call with any questions or formula requests. They are here to help. At Penny Newman, we are constantly looking for new ways to improve our quality of feeds and usefulness to the dairymen today and tomorrow. To learn or hear more, please join us for our daily News Hour magazine, your 1-hour all-dairy connection. It is broadcast live every morning at 8:30 a.m. Pacific and 11:30 a.m. Eastern. You can join the broadcast by calling 712-432-0900. Your conference PIN number is 666632#, or you can listen to the recorded call by dialing 712-432-0990, using your same PIN number for personal access. Find us on Facebook, Twitter, and on YouTube. We truly believe you need to and can know more. Our job is to deliver more knowledge to dairy producers, believing that if knowledge is power, then applied knowledge is nuclear power. We'll see you on the call.